The World Trade Center was conceived back in the 1960s when I think American ambition and a faith in technology was really at its peak. If you think of the other sort of supersized topics of the day like jumbo jets, you have some sense of the sort of ambitious love of bigness that the World Trade Center represents.
But to achieve that bigness, it would take engineering innovations and an army of workers manning revolutionary equipment. Since it opened in 1931, the Empire State Building had held the title of the world's tallest building. Now, over 35 years later, the formidable task presented to engineers and architects was how to build a structure 100 feet taller than the Empire State Building, and do it twice. This massive undertaking presented a number of unique and complex challenges. First, there was the matter of the building site itself.
A major problem in the construction of the World Trade Center was the fact that it was going to be built in Lower Manhattan in an area which was fundamentally fill. You have to think about the geology of the area. Lower Manhattan represents the confluence of two large rivers and the ocean.
Since the 1600s, the waterfront had been extended by over 700 feet by landfill operations. It had been filled with dirt, rubble, old piers, and wharves. To reach bedrock, engineers would have to dig down 65 feet and at the same time not disturb the foundations of the surrounding buildings.
If you start to dig a hole, what happens is that if you only go down 3 feet, your hole fills up with water. They needed to dig not just a 3-foot hole, but a very, very large hole. It would have been the equivalent of pumping out the entire Hudson River. Not only that, even if you were able to pump all the water out, which is virtually impossible, the surrounding buildings would have collapsed.
The first obstacle, then, was how to control and remove the water while laying the foundation of the enormous structures.
They had to come up with extremely unique and wonderful engineering techniques to actually pour that foundation while all this water was pressing in on the foundation structure itself.
The solution came from engineer Ray Monty, who would utilize the slurry trench method. It had been used for subway construction in Europe and in Canada, and now would be used for the first time in the United States. For this project, excavating machines would dig a 3-foot wide trench down to bedrock. As dirt and rock were removed, they would be replaced by the slurry. The slurry is a mixture of water and bentonite, a type of expansive gray clay that has a swelling tendency and would plug any holes along the side as excavators dug deeper. The trench was dug in 22-foot segments. Then, the workers lowered into each slurry-filled segment a pre-assembled 7-story high steel cage of reinforcing rods, weighing 65 tons. The cage provided a framework for the concrete wall that was to come. The concrete would be poured in at the top of the trench through a pipe that resembled an elephant's trunk.
The concrete was heavier than the clay, so it sank to the bottom, and the clay rose up and was reclaimed and used for the next section of trenching.
All in all, construction workers had to make 152 of those 22-foot trench segments to enclose an area 2 blocks wide and 4 blocks long.
It was like building a bathtub, only it's a bathtub in reverse. The purpose of this bathtub, 800 feet long, 200 feet wide, 70 feet deep, was not to contain water, but to keep water out.
And the bathtub, you could have swum, Moby Dick could have done laps in the bathtub because it was that big.
A unique method and used extensively now. In fact, a number of people from other cities come to look at how the Trade Center was built, for example, in Denver, and are using the same method.
The site posed another major challenge. The tunnels containing the PATH commuter rail lines lay underground within the excavation area. Over 130,000 passengers traveled daily on these lines.
They had to dig around these extremely ancient cast iron tunnels for the Hudson Tubes, what is now the PATH, Port Authority Trans-Hudson commuter line. And these were really, really old, fragile literally tubes in which these trains ran. And to do the foundation work required almost microsurgery to excavate all around these and support them while they were doing all the foundation work and then raising the building over it.
The fragile tubes were supported in protective cradles 40 feet in diameter while excavation continued around them.